Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. But here's where we'll start. We're gonna break. I'm going to break down, of course, every game from Week 4 of the NFL season. And let's start with, to me, the game that kind of solidifies a lot for me right now. And that is the Cardinals and the Rams. To me, that was probably one of the more important games and one of the more interesting games going into Week 4. You had two teams that at the time were 3-0. The Cardinals and the Rams. The reason why I said that this one was so intriguing to me is because I wanted to know just exactly how good the Cardinals were. The Rams were coming off probably their biggest win in a while, and that was against the Bucks. And you were playing at home, and you're playing against a team that's red hot, which is the Cardinals. And then on top of that, on the Cardinals side, the Cardinals had some really good wins. They've been destroying people, but I wanted to know how they would play against a team that's also hot. And what Sunday solidified for me is, I believe, at least at this point, Kyler Murray is the front runner for the MVP. And not just that, I think I can honestly say that the Cardinals may be Super Bowl contenders. And what makes a team Super Bowl contender is if you're balanced. There's a lot of teams that we'll talk about that are not balanced, but are good teams, But because of that, in balance, I don't think that I'm not going to say they can't be Super Bowl contenders, but I don't think that they're above the rest, you know what I mean? Or I don't think that when we're talking about the Super Bowl conversation down the line, I don't know if they'll be in it because of how imbalanced their team is. The Cardinals is a different bag. For the longest, and we talked about this before, but for the longest, the Cardinals were only at one side of the ball. They were never really good defensively. Even the Kurt Warner days, and when Larry Fitzgerald was in his prime, they never really had like a great defense. They've had good defenses from here and there, but they never really had a great defense. And even last year, you had Chandler Jones, but he was, coming out, he was injured. You had Budda Baker. You had Isaiah Simmons, but he was more of a raw talent at the time. They had names, but they didn't really have a good defense. Their defense lost them a lot of games. And that was the knock on the Cardinals for a while. Also, Kyler Murray's infrequent play. And when I say infrequent play, he looks incredible all the time, but there will be times where his recklessness will cause, a poor turnover late in the game, or he'll have a 3-4 turnover game. And you never really considered the Cardinals a Super Bowl team. They could be a dark horse team. People will say, oh, my dark horse is Arizona. But the reason why they were usually dark horses is because their defense would just fail them time and time again. Or Kyler Murray would have to do so much that it would put them in situations that they shouldn't be in. I say all that to say, this year, man, at least 4 weeks in, this Cardinals team is right now probably playing arguably the best football in the whole league. You have Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray he still does reckless things. There's some, when we talked about Carson Wentz a couple episodes ago, one thing that you probably, if there's a player that's been reckless for a while, it's more than likely you're not going to change that. That's just who they are. That's in their DNA. Patrick Mahomes is a reckless player. Lamar Jackson is a reckless player. The thing about it is their greatness and their recklessness doesn't usually cost them games. With Carson Wentz, it does. Why do we bring that up? Kyler Murray is a reckless player. And there were times last year that it cost them games. Now, yeah, he might have a turnover here or there, but it's not costing them games. And the biggest revelation that I got is the Cardinals can beat you in many different ways. And that's one thing that has not been the case. The Cardinals, if how it's been is, if Kyler Murray's going to throw 1,000 times, he's going to run around, he's going to look good, he's going to throw a whole bunch of touchdowns, but the run game's not really going to be there. Even though they had Kenyon Drake, but he's not there anymore. The run game's not going to be there. The defense is going to make you have to be in shootouts. It's just not going to work. Now, the Cardinals can beat you in many different ways. Now, the Cardinals beat the Rams 37-20. And it was a complete game from the Cardinals. And that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see, okay, now you're playing against a team that a lot of people feel could be in the Super Bowl. That is the Rams. You're playing against, they're red hot, coming out of probably their biggest win so far, of course, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Cardinals just came in and destroyed them. I know when you say they won by 17, it doesn't sound close, but the game was not that close. Matthew Stafford, I can say that it was because, the Rams just had a bad game, but the Cardinals caused them to have a bad game. J.J. Watt, man. J.J. Watt has been incredible on the defensive side of the ball. Chandler Jones had another incredible game. Budda Baker has been great. This team is firing all cylinders. And the funny thing is, and one of the biggest questions that I had going into the year with the Cardinals is Cliff Kingsbury actually a good coach? That was the conversation going around with the Cardinals, because the Cardinals had a very active offseason, and with the pieces that they got, they acquired A.J. Green, they acquired J.J. Watt, they acquired some pieces, James Conner from the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like, was Cliff Kingsbury, because this is a good team, this is a good roster. It's like, is he good enough to be, is he considered a good coach? That is Cliff Kingsbury, and he's been phenomenal. It is, he has built a system that is perfect for not only Kyler Murray, but perfect for a mobile quarterback. Or let me say this, perfect for the mobile quarterback that he has. And it's worked to perfection. But like I said on Sunday, or like I said about Sunday, the Cardinals can beat you in many different ways. They can beat you, and this is the first time I've seen that in a while. And that's why I think that they could be Super Bowl contending. They can be a Super Bowl caliber team, or they are a Super Bowl caliber team. First and foremost, they can beat you defensively, and that has never been said. Again, you're going against a red-hot Rams team, and you only hold them to 20 points. Cooper Kupp was probably, at least going into this week, the hottest wide receiver in the game, and he was minimized. Robert Woods was probably one of the best second options, I guess you can say. First or second, depending on what you think he is. Hell, the whole Rams offense was on fire. And the Cardinals came in and shut that down, on top of Kyler Murray just being incredible, getting A.J. Green involved. A.J. Green hasn't looked this good since probably, his first few years in the league before injuries really hit. And when I say they can beat you in many different ways, James Conner looks like he's just rejuvenated. He had, I think, 2 touchdowns. The Cardinals look good. And at least 4 weeks into the season, I wouldn't be surprised if you can put the Cardinals up against anybody, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won. That's how good the Cardinals have been playing, and that's why I say, not only are they playing to me like the best team right now, but Kyler Murray is the MVP at least 4 weeks into the season. Now, of course, they don't crown MVPs 4 weeks into the season, but I do want to see, the growth, and I want to see this continue, because the Cardinals is a fun watch, man. Like, if you watch this team, it is fun. It's Kyler Murray will do something incredible that only Kyler Murray can do. It's fun. It's fun watching the matriculation of this team and watching it from where it's been to where it is now. So, congratulations to the Cardinals for beating the Rams 37-20. And out of that game, like I said, kind of solidified to me, at least right now, that Kyler Murray is the MVP of this, or at least right now is the MVP of the league. He's front runner in my opinion. So, Another game that to me had a lot of eyes and stipulation to, or not stipulation, but a lot of eyes. I really wanted to see was the Carolina Panthers and the Cowboys. I think this is it's hard for me to say this, man. Not because I'm a Washington fan. It's hard for me to say what I'm about to say because I'm not used to this. In my adult life, I have never seen the Cowboys as good as they are. I mean, maybe 2016, but as weird it is for me to say, this Cowboys team is, I'll just say it. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. And it's kind of like the Cardinals. One thing that the Cowboys have had, especially since Dak has been there, has been a high-powered offense. You have Dak Prescott, you have Ezekiel Elliott, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Amari Cooper, you have Tony Pollard, you have the tight ends that you have Dalton Schultz. You have a great offense, and the thing that especially last year that hurt them is the imbalance of the team. The offense was straight with Dak, but the defense was historically bad, which is why you saw Dak Prescott in a lot of shootouts until, of course, he got hurt. But watching this team, man, I'll say this. The biggest problem or the biggest concern I have with the Cowboys is the coaching staff. For some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's this hard, but Mike McCarthy, his clock management, man, especially towards the end of games, is highly questionable, to say the least. I don't know what he be doing sometimes. He be like hoarding challenges, or he be challenging plays that shouldn't be challenged. He be holding on to timeouts like you can take them with you. I don't know what's going on, bro. But this Cowboys team, man, is good, and that's the so it's for a while now. It's either for the Cowboys. It's been one of two things. You can either win by running the ball, like that's the only way they can win because Dak Prescott wasn't able to get you wins, or they're only going to win in shootouts, and Ezekiel Elliott doesn't have it anymore. One thing that you never said was, their defense can win you games. That's not the case, man. Trayvon Diggs, he had 2 interceptions. Jalen Smith. This team looks great. Vander Esch looks great, man. This is a Super Bowl caliber team, and the thing about it is, again, they can beat you in multiple different ways, and that's what we've seen this season. Let's just speak on Sunday. On Sunday, or let me say this. For the longest, hell, I even said on this podcast, maybe that Tony Pollard is more of a at least a better back at this point in his career than Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott has taken more punishment, and the way that the Cowboys were using Tony Pollard, it looks like he was more effective than Zeke. Not to mention the fact that he's a better, pass catcher than Zeke, and the Cowboys just be passing the hell out the ball. On Sunday against the Panthers, Zeke shut me up, and I will definitely, I was wrong. I guess they just didn't feed him because Zeke was incredible. I think this was the first. I think he had like two touchdowns. And then of course, now this wasn't a bad game on the Carolina Panthers side of the ball. It was just they ran into a buzzsaw that was the Cowboys. I don't think that the 3-0 going into the game was a faulty 3-0 from the Panthers. I do think that the Cowboys was their hardest test that they had. And I'm not going to say they passed with flying colors because, of course, they lost. But the defense held up. Sam Darnold looked good as usual. Or not usual, but looked good as he's done this entire year. They just ran into a better team. And now when you look at the landscape of the NFC, there's still a lot of teams that I want to see the Cowboys going against to really put them in that, elite. No, I'm not gonna say that because let me say this. The Cowboys are an elite team. I can't sugarcoat it, man. The Cowboys are an elite team, and they played great. The one game that they lost was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they had every opportunity to win that game. They just didn't. Tom Brady, last a minute and a half of the game did what he had to do. But the Cowboys could very well be 4-0, and their schedule is very favorable, very favorable. Dak Prescott's playing great. He, to me, is my front runner for comeback play of the year, and it's really not even close in my opinion. The Cowboys is a Super Bowl caliber team. I know it's weird for me to say that, and it's weird for me to say that because the Cowboys have always been that. They've been a good team. It's just there's either one unit of the ball holding them back, or something bad is going to happen. But I think that this is the first team where I think this team is good enough to overcome their coach and his poor clock management, his poor decision making, because Dak is so good, because Zeke is so good, because the defense is playing well, along with Michael Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, man. I think this is a Super Bowl caliber team, which is the Cowboys, which is crazy for me to say. But moving forward, let's talk about some other games, man. Shouts out to Zach Wilson. The Jets beat the Titans 27-24. First and foremost, this is a horrible, horrible loss for the Titans. And this game really proved to me what I have been, this game has proven to me that the problems that the Titans have faced for a while, they still have. That is, they are, that might be the title of this episode: imbalance versus balance. The Titans is not a balanced team. Their defense is horrible. There should be no reason. Zach Wilson has played bad every single game. Like, he's had good throws here and there, and I'm not saying that he can't improve, but he's played poor every single game. And the fact that they had him out here looking like Joe Montana is crazy to me. And their offensive line broke down. Derrick Henry did score a touchdown, but their offensive line got manhandled by the Jets. The Jets, who don't really have a good unit at all. They don't have a good offensive unit. They don't have a good defensive unit. They have a perfectly balanced team. It's just perfectly garbage. So, but I'm not gonna take any away from the win, man. Congrats to Zach Wilson, and that's something that we talked about in the last episode. Even though some of these rookies may have a good game or two, there are some situations that I just don't think that they're good enough, or you have to be God level to rise some of these organizations out of the mud where they are. And the Jets is one of them. Zach Wilson can play incredible. I just don't know if he's good enough to take them out of obscurity. You know what I mean? So, but shouts out to the Jets for beating the Tennessee Titans, man. The Titans is so inconsistent, man. It's like 1 week they'll look incredible. The 1 week they'll shut out the Seahawks. In the second half, Derrick Henry will rush for like 41 times, 290 yards. Like, then the next week you lose to the Jets. Like, and again, it's the NFL, so you can lose to anybody. All these people are professionals, but the Titans had no business losing to the Jets. The Jets were on pace to lose every single game this year, and you gave them their first and maybe their only win. So, hey. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Eagles 42-30. I will say that this game showed me that the Kansas City Chiefs, now you can say their record has shown you this, but I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is still, how do I phrase this? Patrick Mahomes is good. Don't get me wrong. Patrick Mahomes is probably still the best quarterback in the league. But I don't think that he can match. I called him the great equalizer. I called him the fact that, there's a lot wrong with the Chiefs. It's just when you have someone as good as Patrick Mahomes, that can mask a lot. And it still did that to a certain extent on Sunday. But I think that the team around him. Let me just speak on the defense. The defense is not good. The defense is not good at all. There should be no reason why the Eagles that have been struggling, the only good game they had was against the Atlanta Falcons, which arguably is the worst defense in the league. There should be no reason why they looked as good as they did for 3 quarters. Now, the fourth quarter or the end of the third quarter, all four, they just fell apart. But there should be no reason why they looked that good. The defense is still a problem, and yes, they were able to score 42 points. Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had 3. Shouts out to them. But what happens when you play a better team? Like this game on Sunday, I believe. Yes, Sunday is probably arguably one of the biggest games of the year, and that is the Chiefs against the Bills. Like, what happens when you play against that? And the Bills are firing on all cylinders right now. I don't know, but it's just Patrick Mahomes against mediocre teams has had to be like Superman just to win, and I don't know how sustainable that is. And I know it's crazy to say, but this defense is bad, and the offensive line is still, it's a new offensive line, so they're still trying to learn each other and everything. And again, it's only 4 weeks in, but looking at these last 3 games, the Chiefs have looked mighty ordinary. Now, again, I know it's tough to say that when their quarterback throws 5 touchdowns against the team, but they're 2-2, meaning they're pretty average right now. And the only reason why they're average is because their defense is so bad, but their offense is so good because it kind of balances itself out. But yeah. The Saints lost. Well, I'm gonna say the Giants. Yeah, the Saints lost to the Giants 27-21. I'm starting to see a pattern with the Saints, man. First of all, shouts out to the Giants and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying he's completely back from, he's healthy, of course. I think it's a mental thing and trying to get your groove back after, the injury that he sustained last year. But Shouts out to the Giants. McKinney Galladay had a good day. Daniel Jones had a good day. But we're starting to see a trend from, the Saints. I'm starting to think that week 1 of the Saints was just like an anomaly, like Aaron Rodgers said. Because we're starting to see who the Saints are, and they're an inconsistent team. I'm not saying they're a rebuilding team, because they're still a good team. I just think that they're a retooling team, and they're trying to figure who they are. They're trying to figure out, okay, what do we have? We know that you have Alvin Kamara, even though Alvin Kamara has not been good this year. I'm not gonna say he's been good. He just hasn't been special, and I thought that he would be special. What do you have in the running or in the wide receiver position? What do you have at the quarterback? Why is Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill why is he throwing 50-yard bombs to the other team? Like, come on now. The Saints are just inconsistent, and I can understand that, seeing as though you're coming from playing with arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time for 20-some years to now go to, you need to figure out what you have, So, shouts out to the Giants. They beat the Saints 27-21. The Browns beat the Vikings 14-7. A lot of people are getting on Baker Mayfield's head, man. We all saw the bad the pass that was completely behind Odell Beckham Jr. And if he would have hit Odell Beckham Jr. in stride, it would have been an easy 7 points. But the Vikings are a good 1-3 team. Their defense still isn't that good, but they're a good 1-3 team. And the Browns, I do think the Browns should look a lot better than they have this year. I mean, again, they're 3-1, so it's all good. And their only one is against the Chiefs. But I just think that they will look better than they have been. But congratulations to the Browns. So the Bears beat the Lions 24-14. Justin Fields got the win. Even though, again, I don't understand why Matt Nagy, after the game and during the weekly presser, has continuously talked about Andy Dalton is going to be like. I'm sorry. Do they have money on Andy Dalton? Like, does Andy Dalton know something about Matt Nagy that we don't? Because it's like, why would you at this point? Why would you go back to Andy Dalton? It doesn't. Andy Dalton has not given you. And I was one of those people. Let me say this. Let me first say, I was one of those people that were a little late. I was like, you know what? Let Andy Dalton start. Let Justin Fields learn, blah, blah, blah. And then once he comes in, he'll be good. Andy Dalton was not giving you. Andy Dalton and Justin Fields are pretty much giving you the same production at this point. Not saying that Justin Fields isn't going to improve, but they're pretty much giving you the same production. So why go back to Andy Dalton? It doesn't make sense to me. It does. I don't know, man. I don't know, but it doesn't. It's just confusing. It's confusing because it messes up the chemistry of the offense and the defense, because you don't know like who you're playing for. It's just weird. It's just weird, man. And then he was going on, the decision is by me, the head coach. I made that play. Like, dude, you know what Matt Nagy's press conference kind of remind me of? You seen Coach Carter when they won and he came in? Yeah, I made that play. That was me, baby. I'm like, dude, what are you doing, bro? It's weird. Now, I guess he was probably doing that because he's hearing rumblings, and he's hearing the fans aren't really happy with his play calling and the fact that they got, the fact they're 2-2 and Justin Fields looked all right. I guess he was trying to take credit for, I don't know, but it was weird. It was weird. But shouts out to the Bears. The Bills. You know what? To me, it's a neck and neck race between the Bills and the Arizona Cardinals as the best teams in the league right now. Now again, I understand it's the Texans, but the Bills beat the Texans 40-0. I understand the Texans are bad. I understand you have a bad roster. I understand that they're in a phase trying to figure out what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. But you lose to your NFL team, and you lose 40-0. And the Bills, again, ever since take that week 1 game against the Steelers out of there, they are, again, this is the team that a lot of people thought we would see coming into this year. Last year they made it all the way to the AFC Championship. I think their biggest game is going to be on Sunday against the Chiefs, because that's kind of like Lamar Jackson. That's the team that they're pretty much getting compared to. And I say that to say, the Ravens have been good this entire time. We just need to see how they are in the playoffs. And one team that Lamar Jackson never beat until this year was the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's why they make that a big thing. And those two, the Ravens and the Chiefs, people think that, moving forward, those are going to be some top teams to worry about in the AFC. Same as the Bills. The Bills and Josh Allen has had, at least the last 2 years, has had success against everyone except the Kansas City Chiefs. So, while 3-1 is good, while they're destroying people left and right, I do want to see how they look like against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's what's going to happen, this week. So, but in the meantime, congratulations to the Bills. They beat them 40-0, and it wasn't even close, man. The Colts beat the Dolphins 27-17. Again, I'm starting to think that now. I know Tua didn't play, but this the Dolphins organization should be a lot better than 1-3. I don't know what it is, but they should just be a lot better than that record. And I think you're going to see some changes, not from a coach. I think people believe in Brian Flores. I think it's a personnel thing. It might be the quarterback. I don't know, because I don't think this team would be 1-3 if you had a healthy Deshaun Watson. Now, again, we don't know what's going to happen with the whole court situation, but I think that they're going to make some changes because this team is too good with the defense that they have, the money that they spent on the offensive line, the money that they spent on the receivers and the catching core. This team should be a lot better than 1-3, and they shouldn't be losing to a 1-3 Colts, a Colts team that has been railing the last few years. Now, I did predict that the Colts were going to beat the Dolphins, but the biggest reason why is because Tua wasn't playing. But even, I had to listen back. I don't even know if with Tua playing they would have won. So, but shouts out to the Colts. Carson Wentz didn't look terrible. The defense looked good. Quentin Nelson did go on IR, so I hope that he comes back healthy, and that's a big. He's probably the best offensive lineman in the league. So the fact that he's on IR is kind of sucks. But we'll see how that goes. But shouts out to the Colts. The Washington football team beat the Falcons 34-30. Again, not all wins you create equal. Shouts out to Washington for winning. Tyler Heineke looked really good. He had the game-winning touchdown to J.D. McKissick. That was huge. It looked good. The team looked good, even though, we lost Bostic for the year, I believe. They also lost Brandon Sheriff for like 3 to 4 weeks, I think. It was tough. But the questions that I still have about the Washington football team, I still have. Their defense was not good. They came at big moments, but again, you're going against the Atlanta Falcons. You're going against a team that defense is god awful. And even though Tyler Heineke looked like Kurt Warner, I don't know if he's that good. And that's no offense to Tyler Heineke. Good, he played really well. The defense still is not, and the fact that you're losing one of your better defenders in Bostic for the year, I don't know what's gonna happen, man. I don't know what's gonna happen, but you're 2-2. Shouts out to Washington. Seattle Seahawks beat the 49ers 28-21. Yet and still another game, and that's one of the teams I was talking about when we're talking about the Cardinals. The Seahawks is an imbalanced team. And that's why it's hard I picked them as a dark horse. Like they could win the Super Bowl because of how good Russell Wilson is. But there's so much going against them outside of Russell Wilson. Their offensive line is still not good. Their defense still isn't that good. The reason why they won, honestly, is because the in-game change that happened to the 49ers. Of course, Jimmy G got hurt again. And Trey Lance came in. Now, Trey Lance did look good. He had 2 touchdowns, I believe. But it just wasn't ready for the moment. And Russell Wilson he looked incredible. He was dinking and diming left and right. And that's just what Russell Wilson does. And, a good question, a good conversation was at hand. Shouts out to Joy Taylor from The Herd. She says something that is very simple, but it's very true. If you have to say when healthy, usually you're an injury-prone player. Like when you have to say, he'll be good when healthy. One player that comes to mind a lot when we talk about that when healthy thing was Jordan Reed. For people that don't remember, Jordan Reed was a tight end for the Washington football team for the longest. He was also a tight end. Where did he go? I think he went to the 49ers. And when healthy, he could have rivaled being one. He was one of the top tight ends when healthy. He was a big frame. He can catch well. Because he was so big, he didn't really go down. It took a multiple tackles to try to get him down. Jordan Reed was incredible. The problem was he continuously got hurt, whether it was concussion after concussion, lower leg injuries. He just kept getting hurt to the point where he retired. And it's like, okay, when healthy, Jordan Reed is great. You hear that a lot about basketball players too. A big one was Derrick Rose, of course. When healthy, Derrick Rose is blank. I say that to say Jimmy G is a good quarterback. Is he a top quarterback? No. But something is to be said when you always have to put when healthy. And I think that's a big reason why the 49ers went to go get Trey Lance, because Jimmy G is not reliable due to his health. Jimmy G year after year gets hurt. He had that problem even as a backup for New England, and he's had that problem nearly every year for the 49ers. In fact, the one year he was mostly healthy, they went to the Super Bowl. Now, a lot of that was because of their defense, but still, this team that's why they went to go get Trey Lance, because Jimmy G is not reliable. Not to mention, when Jimmy G is in the game, he's good, but he's going to give you at least 2 opportunities to get an interception, and that's what happened on Sunday. Before he got hurt, he threw a horrible pass. So, that's one. There's a reason why a team with the roster that the 49ers have is 2-2. And the team that the roster that the 49ers have, both offensively and defensively, there's a reason why a lot of people, or you don't really hear too many people say that they're Super Bowl, they have them in the Super Bowl, because the quarterback position is inconsistent because of injury. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, but shout out to the Seahawks. Green Bay Packers beat the Steelers 27-17. I'm not going to keep, it sounds like it's pretty much a broken record at this point. Big Ben just doesn't have it anymore. In fact, he doesn't have it because that one bomb that he threw to, that one bomb that he threw to, I think it's Deontay Johnson. I was like, what? Like, I was shocked. Like, I was legit shocked when he threw that bomb to Deontay Johnson. I was like, oh my gosh. And because of everything, every other pass is just bad. Now, again, look at the difference. Now, I understand that they're just better. One player's just better. But look at the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Big Ben. So Aaron Rodgers is 37, right? Big Ben, let me look this up. Big Ben is just 2 years older. 2 years older than Aaron Rodgers. Now, I understand that Aaron Rodgers has always been better than Big Ben, even though Big Ben does have more Super Bowls. But a lot of that is a credit to the historic defenses they had. But just look at how different they look at their ages. Now, again, it's just 2 years. Big Ben looks like Big Ben, outside of one pass, has looked horrible this is going on almost 2.5 years. Aaron Rodgers just won an MVP last year and still looking as good as ever at 37. Hell, you know what it is? Hold on. Big Ben is 37. Drew Brees. Now, the problem with Drew Brees was his arm just gave out. Now, Drew Brees is 42 right now, but his arm just gave out. He just couldn't throw, but it wasn't because of, it was just because of he just kept getting hit after hit after hit, and your arm just started, and the fact that the Saints offense was always just throw, that Drew Brees' arm deteriorated. But you never felt like Drew Brees deteriorated because he was just garbage. It was just because the system that he's run his entire career in New Orleans, when you throw that many times, one, you're going to have that many records, and your arm's just going to deteriorate. But even at the end where we knew he didn't have it anymore, we didn't look at Drew Brees how we're looking at Big Ben right now. We're looking at Big Ben like, dog, it's over. The fans, Pittsburgh Steelers fans are saying, dog, it's over with, bro. Like, give it up. It's so bad. I think SportsCenter or First Take for the last few weeks have started their segment talking about, hey, should the Steelers go get Cam? And that's with their starting quarterback. Like, it's bad, man. Now, I'm not gonna continue to harp, but I'm just saying the Steelers. Ooh. Man, let me move on, man. The Ravens beat the Broncos 23-7. Now, a lot of people are saying that the Ravens beat the Broncos because Teddy Bridgewater went out with a concussion. Let me tell you something. If Teddy Bridgewater was healthy and they played 15 more quarters, they weren't beating the Ravens. The Ravens were just dialed up, man. Lamar, and the thing that I don't think I've seen in a while is the Ravens won that game through the air. Lamar Jackson had like a 320-something yard game passing. Like, and when do you really ever hear Lamar Jackson passing for over 300 yards, man? Like, shouts out to them. Like, he looked. That game really showed me a lot. One, it showed me I can't wait till Rashad Bateman and that the wide receiver core is completely healthy, because I want to see what they look like. Because when you have Sammy Watkins, looking like how he's looking, and you have Marquise Brown now, you're throwing it to him. You just got to catch it. We just got to catch it. The Ravens look good, man, and even with their defense, of course, still sputters. Because it's their defense. I mean, they're dealing with a lot of injuries on that side of the ball, and on the offensive side. Even though, Latavius Murray looked good, Le'Veon Bell looked good. They looked good offensively as far as running back position, but their defense, when you lose your I guess second best defender in Marcus Peters, it's tough, but the Ravens have looked good. So shout out to the Ravens. And the reason why I waited till last to talk about this is because the buildup, and that is the Patriots. And the Bucks and the Patriots. That was the game. We got it, guys. Okay, it was okay. Okay, that's what we got. Now, the build up to this game, Tom Brady returning to the Patriots. That's what we got. That we knew that was going to be big. It is what it is. But the game wasn't that good until maybe the fourth quarter. The game wasn't that good. I don't know if it was nerves. Tom Brady didn't look good. Mac Jones looked okay. The defense, it was just they both didn't look good. If we're being honest with the game, it didn't look good. It was good. The build-up was there, of course. Tom Brady coming back to the Patriots, but it wasn't that good of a game. The hype, of course, the game did not match to the hype, which usually happens. So, but shouts out to the Bucks beating the Patriots. The Bucks beat the Patriots 19-17 because Nick Folk. A coach will show you who they trust and if they trust you in situations like that. I think it was like 4th and 3 or something like that with like 55 seconds. Instead of going for it with Mac Jones, who was playing okay. Like I said, he outplayed Brady that night. I'm not gonna say he's better than Brady, but he outplayed Brady that night. Now that's not saying much, saying both, Brady wasn't that great, but he did outplay Brady that night. And it's 4 and 3. You have the ball, 55 yards or 55 seconds. You don't want to give the ball back to Tom Brady. Instead of at least running another play and knowing that your kicker has not kicked, I think it's like he's under 500 when kicking more than 50 yards, and he was injured. I don't know why you wouldn't go for that. I do know why you won't go for that, because you don't trust that your quarterback is going to be able to make that play. But Nick Folk kicked it and missed bad, hit doinked off the rim or off the pylon, and that's how it happened. So, in Monday Night Football, the Chargers beat the Raiders 28-14. Justin Herbert was better than Derek Carr. The Chargers was a better team than the Raiders. The Raiders, like I said, they were 3-1, and the Chargers were what 2-1 or something. Oh no, the Raiders were 3-0, and the Chargers were 2-1, and the Chargers looked like a better team. Justin Herbert was carving them up left and right. Jared Cook was good. Jared Cook is usually good wherever he goes, but they were carving him up left and right. And the Raiders just, I don't know what it was, man. They just folded. Now I understand you lost by 14, but the game wasn't that close. Honestly, it was like kind of late rally, but that is, shouts out to the Chargers. That's the weekly breakdown, or that's the week 4 breakdown of the NFL week 4. So let's move forward. So MLB playoffs is here, man. As I'm recording this right now, this is before the wild card game this is Tuesday. It's Tuesday night at around what? Well, this is before the wild card game. The wild card game tonight is Boston and New York. The wild card game tomorrow, which is Wednesday, is the St. Louis Cardinals and the LA Dodgers. So the teams that could potentially be in the playoffs is, of course, Boston and New York. They're in the wild card. You have the Tampa Bay Rays, the White Sox, the Houston Astros. You have the Milwaukee Brewers. You have the Atlanta Braves, and you have the San Francisco Giants. First and foremost, this has been an incredible MLB season. First and foremost, the fact that you have 2 teams in the same exact division, which is the San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers, both getting to 100 wins is crazy. And the fact that a 100-win team is in the wild card is crazy. The fact that it looked bleak, like it looked hella bad for both the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. And the fact that they were both able to rally, because the New York Yankees had some bad losses. I mean, the Yankees lost to the Orioles. The Orioles. Now they did sweep the Nationals, but they lost to the Orioles, who you can arguably say is one. Now they're not worse than the Diamondbacks, but they're one of the worst teams in the league. They look good. Now I will say this. Again, as I'm recording this, I don't know who won, but it's going to be tough for me to see either Boston or New York beating a Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay Rays are on fire. And I'll make my predictions. So coming out the American League, again, you have teams, you have all different types of teams. You had teams with great bullpens in the Rays and the White Sox, which I'm surprised. You have Houston, who is an all-around team. They've been good for a while, even with the whole scandal that they had. And of course Yankees and Boston. I just don't. I'm gonna go with a shocker. I'm gonna go with the White Sox. I think the White Sox are never really, or haven't been known for a while, to be good, and the fact that they're in the position that they're in, I just think that they're gonna ride that momentum. It's gonna be tough to beat the Tampa Bay Rays, because the Tampa Bay Rays is probably the most complete team in the American League, even though we thought, whatever. But I just think that I think I have the White Sox. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the White Sox make it to the World Series, and in the NL, the Giants. It's either the Giants or Dodgers. To me, that's a 2-team race. I don't, even though, again, I don't know. The Dodgers could lose against St. Louis, and in that case, then I'm all wrong. But to me, it's a 2-team race. Now, I do think that not having Kershaw for the playoffs is huge, but you do have Matt Scherzer, and that is the Dodgers. I'm gonna go with the Giants. The Giants have been on a roll this entire year, and even though the Braves have been good as well, I just think the Giants have too much firepower. So I think that the World Series is going to be the White Sox and the Giants. That's a weird World Series. Now, of course, we'll give my predictions a little closer to the World Series, but who wins, because I could definitely be wrong. But those are my predictions going into this week's, or into this year's playoffs. Again, this has been a very exciting year for the postseason. There's a lot of teams that didn't make it, like the Toronto Blue Jays. They were incredible all year, man. They just missed out on the last day. So, You know, it's been an incredible baseball season, and I'm not, and this is coming from a person that's not the biggest fan of baseball, as we know, but you know, I got to give it where it's getting. They've done everything right this year. This year has been incredible. Hell, the Padres didn't even make it. Teams that were interesting didn't even make the, like, teams have players that were interesting, which is Fernando Tatis, Shohei Ohtani from the Angels. Again, Vladimir from Toronto. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were really good. So we'll talk about it more, closer to the World Series. But my prediction right now is the White Sox and the Giants make it to the World Series. So moving forward, so I'm continuing the NBA preseason has started. And you don't really take much into preseason because, as we've seen for some games like the Lakers and Nets, most of your stars aren't going to play. As we saw with Golden State and Portland, your stars may only play a quarter or two. You don't really take them that seriously. So I don't really talk that much about the preseason, even though I think there are rule changes that are going to affect some people's play. For instance, we saw it with the Golden State Warriors game where Steph Curry is used to, getting a defender up in the air and jumping into the defender and getting the foul call, but that's not happening this year. So I'm interested to see, what happens from that, or how that's going to affect the league moving forward. Because it's not just Steph Curry, but a lot of players do it. And Dame does it, LeBron does it, Luka does it a lot. I'm just excited to see, I'm interested, let me say that, to see how that's going to affect it. But talking about that, we're going to continue the divisional breakdown of the NBA. We did just do the Central Division, and today we're going to do the Southeast Division. Now, the Southeast Division is the Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat, Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, and Orlando Magic. And let's start with the Orlando Magic. Orlando really hasn't been good since, they've been to the playoffs, but they really haven't been like contenders or anything since Dwight Howard. And it's not. Now, I do think that they are an interesting collection of players as far as they have a lot of it's a young team. You have Jalen Suggs, you have Markelle Fultz, Mo Bamba, and Jonathan Isaac. This team's not going to make any noise. I think that these are one of those, the Orlando Magic is one of those teams where we talk about how long is a rebuild, and to a point where you stop calling it a rebuild and just say you don't know what you're doing as an organization. You were good when you had Dwight Howard. You had a good player in Aaron Gordon. Now, you thought Aaron Gordon was a franchise player. Turns out he is not. So what do you do moving forward? Yeah, we need to see what Jalen Suggs. He looked good. Cole Anthony, we need to see what they do, but they're still young. So what direction does this organization go in? They're not attracting any stars. So what's happening? And again, at some point you have to move. You move from the you're not as much a rebuild team as a team that you just don't know what you're doing, or you just can't get out the mud. And I think Orlando's in that. Again, you have some good young pieces, but to me, they're the worst team in the Southeast Division, like by far. So, and I don't see them making any noise this season. So, there's that. Charlotte Hornets. You have LaMelo Ball, who is a great young player. You have Mikal Bridges. You did trade Devontae Graham, but you have Terry Rozier. This is an interesting team. I think that this team, if healthy throughout the whole season, you still have Gordon Hayward when healthy, another player when healthy. But I think that this team can definitely be good enough to fight for a play-in spot. I don't think that they're good enough to fight for an outright playoff spot right now. But, with the team that they have, I do think that they're good enough to be in the play-in. I just need to see, the growth of LaMelo Ball. I need to see, and he was great. Again, he won Rookie of the Year, so I'm not saying he was garbage or anything. But I want to see, is he going to improve his jump shot? Is he going to improve some of his decision-making? And I do want to see what it looks like with the whole season. Again, he did miss most of the season due to injury. So I do want to see what they look like. But Charlotte is one of those exciting teams to watch. You know what I mean? Like they call them league pass teams. It's like who would on a random night, there's a whole bunch of games. Who would you want to see on league pass that's the most interesting? And Charlotte's one of those teams. You know, they have Markel Bridges is a high flyer. You know. It's exciting to see, but I when we talk about winning games, you know, we'll see. Let's talk about the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards find themselves in a place that they have been for a while, and that is in the middle of the pack. Now, when you have a player as good as Bradley Beal, that's not really you don't want to be in the middle of the pack. Because what do I say about the middle of the pack? The middle of the pack are teams that probably good enough to make the playoffs, but aren't really good enough to make no noise in the playoffs. Like, you don't expect them to win no series. Or if they do win a series, you don't expect them to win another one. Or a team that, you know, isn't good enough to make it to the playoffs, but is too good to be a lottery team. So it's like you're going to build a team through trades or trying to accumulate a lot of draft picks like the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Washington Wizards have a good team. You know, you acquire Montrezl Harrell, you get Spencer Dinwiddie, you get KCP, you get Kuzma. You do trade Russell Westbrook for those people, but you have Bradley Beal. Darius Garland has been good. Not Darius Garland. What's the center's name? I forgot the center's name, but the center, Thomas Bryant should be coming back from injury. This is a good team, but it's a good middle of the road team. This team should make the playoffs, especially in the East. They should make the playoffs, but I don't see this team beating the Miami Heat. I don't see them beating, the Milwaukee Bucks. Clearly, it's a middle of the pack team, and that's not something that's going to, especially a team that has had. A team that's had some really good players. I mean, you had Gilbert Arenas in your history. You had Antoine Jameson. You had John Wall. You had some good players. It's like you want more than Russell Westbrook. You want more than mediocrity. And you have Bradley Beal, who is one of the best shooting guards in the league. I mean, he finished second in the league in scoring twice in a row, over 30 points. And it's like, you know, there's a reason why the story is Bradley Beal going to stay or not. That's like every year. So, you know, I guess. The Atlanta Hawks, I think that they did, at least in this division, have the most success last year. Trae Young, Cam Reddish came at the end of the year and looked really good. Kevin Huerter, like Clint Capella, they did re-sign Clint Capella. And they got no, they didn't. Bogdanovich is good. I just think that last year was a great run. Don't get me wrong. Last year was a great run, and I just don't know if they'll be able to duplicate that because there's a lot that went their way. Now, yeah, they messed around. They beat the 76ers, but we know the collapse that Ben Simmons had, and then they didn't have to run into. I mean, when they ran into a team that they weren't supposed to beat, now they beat the Knicks, and the Knicks, as we know, was offensively challenged the entire playoffs or the first round at least. But I don't know, man. It's tough because like it's a good, exciting team. Like you have, you have what's his name? You have Trae Young, who is a very young and exciting player. You have a lot. It's a young core. I just don't think that they're good enough to beat I don't think they're good enough to beat a Brooklyn. I don't think they're good enough to beat a Milwaukee. I don't think they're good enough to. I think their rival. See what happens with the Celtics or teams like that. So, but they'll be fun to watch. It's kind of like the Charlotte Hornets. They'll be fun to watch. And the team that probably made a lot of moves this offseason, and that's the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat were just outmatched against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they made some big moves getting Kyle Lowry now they did trade Goran Dragic, but they got Kyle Lowry and they got PJ Tucker. I am not the biggest fan of Kyle Lowry, never been, but I do see the value that Kyle Lowry does have to a team. I know, even though, when Toronto won, it was a lot to do. It had a lot to do with what's his name? It had a lot to do with Kawhi Leonard, but Kyle Lowry was pretty big as well. And I think that he fits the culture well for the Miami Heat. When you pair him alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, I think he can be a good mentor for Tyler Euro and Duncan Robinson. I think they'll be good. I think that they'll be. I think Miami Heat is good enough to be at least a top 4 team in the East, with the moves that they made, and of course Jimmy Butler coming back and Bam coming back, looking better. Bam coming off a Olympic gold medal. I think that they'll be good enough to be at least a top 4 team. Again, I need to see what they look like, because right now on paper, there's a lot going on with the 76ers we'll talk about. There's a lot going on with Boston as far as turnaround. So what happens with that? And what do the 76ers do when you pretty much only have one star, and that is Joel Embiid, because it doesn't look like they'll have Ben Simmons. So I have to figure that out. And we'll see. We'll definitely see. We'll see how it goes. Moving forward, there's players in every sport that kind of get overshadowed because they're not the most flashy players, or they're not the best players, but they're really good. They may get overshadowed by someone on their team being better than them. They may be overshadowed by maybe the era and some players that are more, I guess, household names in them. But that doesn't take away from their greatness. And why am I saying this? Pau Gasol, longtime Laker. He played for the Spurs. He played for Memphis. And, of course, Barcelona. He retired from basketball, I think, after 19 years or 19 seasons. When we talk about the history of the Lakers, right, Pau Gasol is a name that a lot of people won't name. Pau Gasol is a player that a lot of people will forget. But that doesn't take away from how important and how great Pau Gasol was. We know about the late, great Kobe Bryant. We know about, Magic Johnson, Shaq, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But when we talk about some of the great bigs, Pau Gasol is in there. And the Lakers know he's in there is because he's getting his number retired. Pau Gasol was a huge part of the Lakers' success when Shaq left. Kobe would not have won 2 more championships if it wasn't for Pau Gasol. Now, I'm not saying Pau Gasol was better than Kobe. I'm not saying Pau Gasol was more important than Kobe. But kind of like Shaq and Kobe, kind of like Jordan and Pippen, kind of like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, kind of like Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. You can be a great player, but you need help. You need a great Robin. You need a player that is willing to sacrifice their game for the betterment of the team. And Pau Gasol was incredible, one of the best European players we've ever seen. Now, no, he wasn't Dirk. He wasn't Akeem Olajuwon. Well, I don't say European, but he wasn't, when we talk about foreign players, he wasn't Akeem Olajuwon. But Pau Gasol, he wasn't even Luka. But Pau Gasol was incredible. Pau Gasol was one of the most important pieces to the two-peat Lakers without Shaq. Hell, even Kobe said it. he would not have won 5 rings if it wasn't for Pau Gasol. Or at least 2 of those 5 rings if it wasn't for Pau Gasol. Hell, we remember the years where Kobe was scoring 35 points a game and got like lost in the first round, I believe, to the Phoenix Suns. Come back with Pau Gasol and they win 2 straight. Pau Gasol he's one of those players that there's always going to be debates if he's a Hall of Famer because he doesn't have the most flashy numbers. And he was playing along somebody where they're going to say, well, if he wasn't playing along Kobe. They talk, Pau Gasol, when we talk about Pau Gasol, you know who Pau Gasol kind of reminds me of? Pau Gasol is like Pau Gasol is kind of like a Chris Bosh. You know, when we talk about the Heat, now Chris Paul's in the Hall of Fame, shouts out to Chris Bosh. But when we talk about the Heat, the Heatles, I guess you can say, Chris Bosh is the last person we talk about as far as the big 3. When Chris Bosh had a lot of game winners, he had a lot of big games, but he gets forgotten a lot because you have LeBron, you have Dwayne Wade, or you know who he is. He's when we talk about Golden State, Pau Gasol is kind of like Andre Iguodala, even though he is a Finals MVP, but Andre Iguodala, when we talk about, the great Golden State Warrior teams with Steph and Clay and Draymond and KD, you don't really talk too much about Andre Iguodala. But he was vitally important. Now, yes, Pau Gasol is better than Andre Iguodala, but shouts out to Pau Gasol, man. To me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Shouts out to the Lakers organization for retiring his number. And shouts out for 19 incredible seasons. Shouts out to him for going out. He went to go play in Barcelona because he wanted to. Because there were still teams that wanted him in the NBA, but he said, let me just go to Barcelona. And now he's retired. So shouts out to Pau Gasol, man. Shouts out to you. Let me talk a little WNBA. Shouts out to Michaela Onyenwere Onyenwere. I apologize if I know I butchered your name. I apologize. But shouts out to her for winning the 2021 Kia WNBA Rookie of the Year. She was incredible, man. She averaged 8 points a game, 8 points a game, 3 rebounds, and she was good. She was one of those players where this was a very interesting year for or at least last year was the WNBA draft. There was a lot of players that could have went number 1. Now, of course, Charlie Collier went number 1, and rightfully so. But she, Michaela, she could have went number 1. There was a lot of players that could have went number 1. But shouts out to her for winning the 2021 Rookie of the Year. And shouts out to the all-rookie first team. That is Ari McDonald from the Atlanta Dream. That's Michaela Onyenwere. I know I'm butchering your name. I apologize. From the Liberty. Shouts out to Charlie Collier from the Dallas Wings. Dallas Wings. Shouts out to Dee Richards, and shouts out to Dana Evans. Shouts out to all the ladies, man. Again, this was a good year for WNBA. And tonight we have Game 4 of the WNBA playoffs. Both series is 2-1. I don't know, man. It's not really. It's not really looking good for Connecticut or the LA Vegas Aces. They both run into a buzzsaw that is, the Sky and the Mercury. The Mercury are hitting Vegas all different types of ways. You got Diana Taurasi going crazy. You got Skylar Diggins going crazy. Brittany Griner going crazy. And the Chicago Sky, Courtney Vandersloot's going wild, and it, man, and he's still and their best player that is Candace Parker. Yeah, she's not even been the best player like this series. And shouts out to Kayla Cooper. That's what I was looking. Kayla Cooper was incredible. So I don't know, man. My WNBA picks might be off. Come Wednesday, it might be over for Connecticut and the Aces. But we'll see. We'll see, man. And before we go, man, shouts out to Bubba Wallace for winning his first race. He's the first black driver to earn a Cup Series victory since 1963. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he only won because of the rain stoppage. I'm like, yeah, but when there was a rain stoppage, anybody could have been in first place, and he just so happened to be him. So, shouts out to Bubba Wallace, man, putting African Americans on the map. Shouts out, and especially in a sport that is dominated by Caucasian, which is NASCAR or racing in general. Shouts out to Bubba Wallace. Now, he's not on the same level as Lewis Hamilton, but shouts out to black people doing things that are being in sports that maybe generally they wouldn't be thought of being in. So, but there you you know what? One thing I want to talk about before we go is this Urban Meyer situation. So Urban Myers was caught on camera being promiscuous at a bar, and it's hard being a first-year head coach. You have to do everything right, or a lot of things right, especially when you're a first-year coach for a team that's not that good. I'm not upset with what he did on camera. That ain't got nothing to do with me. What I think the problem is, the reports coming out is he's having a tough time connecting with players. His leadership is in question, and you're doing this. You know what I mean? Like, it clearly shows that. Now, I understand that you're not in the facility every day, all day, every day. But this is a bet. The optics are bad. It looks like you don't really care about what you're doing, or you don't really care about your job, especially when the same week reports come out talking about, players, you're not connecting with players, and you're not a good leader, and you're not a good coach, at least in the NFL. When you have that, and then you have this video, it's like, it's not really a good look, my guy. I don't know what's going to come of it, but, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look at all, honestly. But there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate all you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys for watching. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. It's about to get cold, so get your hoodie or get your sweater. Hey, go get your Unpopular Podcast merch, multiple different designs, multiple different colors. Go get yours today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. Again, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, much love.